You are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue. It is Thursday, May 11th, and we have another episode here for you today. It's going to be a good one, so however you got here, we appreciate it. We are on Spotify, YouTube, and Amazon Prime Video if you want to watch the show. If you want to listen to the show, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and of course, Amazon Music. But we have a fantastic lineup today. So a little NFL schedule release that comes out later tonight. All of the team schedules. So now we're going to start looking into the future a little bit. Who beats who? A little bit of our divisional predictions.
Can't
where
wait
we
for
go
that to start.
through team by team, go through the entire schedule, break it down what we think is going to happen. So we're going to start the show with that. To finish off the first segment, we'll have hits and misses like normal, and then in the second segment, we're going to grade NFL draft. So go through different
draft,
teams,
and
give some grades out.
Like off-season acquisitions, like look at your total off-season from the time the season ended last year.
Yeah.
To right now, so draft free agency, give you a little grade action.
Yeah, look at the whole full picture thing. And then we'll have news and then possibly a little discussion to finish up. Depends if we have the time, but if not, you'll get a lot of that next week. So just a lot of stuff to talk in the NFL. We're not really pressed for time at this point. We were talking before we came on today. We got 16 weeks now. So last week was 17. We got 16 now until NFL kickoff. So
is that week one or is that preseason?
That's week one.
Okay.
Preseason is obviously before that.
We don't care about that.
And then, of course, 8 weeks before the season starts, we will have our first divisional prediction, and I can't wait for that, and that's something we always look forward to every single year.
I'm excited.
But the schedule comes out today.
Yes, first of all, I have a mustache. You guys get one comment. You get to rip me one time, and we're moving on, all right?
Look,
Each person gets one comment.
If I know anything about YouTube comments or comments anywhere, it's not going to be one.
Yeah.
It's not going to be one.
It's not going to be one. That's okay. But anyway, you mentioned schedule release. This is like the first step towards our divisional predictions, right? Because everyone asks me, I'm a little bit of a nerd, right, with the schedule release. I love it. I think it's super important. People ask me, like, oh, what do you think of teams? Like, how many games are they going to win? I don't know, right? We need to see the schedule first. The NFL scheduling is meticulous, right? I mean, like, for example, last year, the Browns and the Panthers. Nobody wants to watch that game.
No.
But week one, when Baker's starting against his former team, that's his first game against the Browns in week one.
Captivating.
That one I'll put on, right? If that's in week 10, when both teams are 4-6 or worse, I don't really care. That's not a game I watch, right? It's the NFL, Russell Wilson, and Seattle. Going back to Seattle for the first game of the year, right? The thing got a huge number. Didn't help that it was absolute mayhem at the end of the game either, and everybody talked about it for the next 2 weeks, right? The NFL knows what they're doing. And a lot can change based on your schedule, right? So, especially being in Pittsburgh, everyone, well, what about the Steelers? I need to see the schedule, and I'm talking just in division. I won't even get into out of the division right now with Pittsburgh, right? Let's go through Pittsburgh. What if they get Baltimore late like they did this past year? Lamar hasn't played a full season in, 3 years? If they get Baltimore, because they had Baltimore, 13, and then they had a bye, and then Baltimore in 15, I think. Or maybe they had a game in between. Doesn't matter. They got Baltimore 2 out of the 3 weeks, and they were both later in the year. Well, if that's the case, Lamar could be hurt. OBJ's coming off an injury. He's been injury-prone. Rashad Bateman has yet to put together a full, complete season. Zay Flowers was hurt in college, could be hurt in the pros. So if we get Baltimore week 12 and then again in week 16, there's a good chance we're playing Tyler Huntley and practice squad guys. That changes things. I think if they get Baltimore early, Lamar with a vengeance, all these new weapons that are young, energized, ready to go, it could look a little bit different. Especially if we get them on the road early, could look a lot different. How about Deshaun Watson, right? If you get the Browns a little bit early before Deshaun starts to get on a roll a little bit, because I think we think Deshaun's going to be a little bit better, right? He takes 2 years off, so he was a little rusty, he was a little rough. We think Deshaun's going to recover at some point and at least get back to B to B plus quarterback. I don't think he ever really returns to A plus. I don't think he's going to be MVP of the league ever, that form of player. But could Deshaun be B plus and be a menace on the ground? Absolutely, he could be. But if you get him in week 9 or 10 when they're really, really rolling, ooh, that's different. Maybe if we get him early before he's on a roll, or maybe late he gets banged up a little bit, that's also different. You mentioned we have the Niners.
Yeah, the Niners.
Are they at home? We have the Niners at home?
Yes, they're coming to Acrisure.
So we have the Niners at home. And you were like, ooh, like early? I don't know. And I'm like, no. Actually, I'd prefer them early. I don't know if you guys remember. The Niners like frequently start, you'll look up, you'll be like, wow, through 7 weeks, they're 3-4. What's going on? Like, great coach, really good offensive line, nice defense. And then next thing you know, they rip off like 12 straight into the 1 seed. Right? So if we get them early, right, we don't know if Brock's going to be back and how healthy is he going to be in the first couple weeks. Maybe they start Trey Lance or Sam Darnold until Brock's ready in week, 5 or 6. So you get them early, especially at home, I like our chances. Right? We get them, December, rough. Let's go like Green Bay, for example, with a young quarterback. Schedule release is very, very important. They play the entire NFC South. If they get them early while Love's still getting settled, oh my God, that's beautiful. If you can go to Atlanta early in the year with Jordan Love, hey, guy, terrible defense. They drafted a running back in the top 10. Go win the game. You don't have to score a bunch of points. Go give me 24 points. That's a dub, right? Bryce Young, when he's still getting settled, we get him early. Oh, beautiful, right? Green Bay's culture, run game, defense, offensive line will win that game single-handedly. Jordan Love, don't crash the Mercedes. So the schedule release is very, very important for Green Bay. How about Jacksonville? I think Jacksonville in that division has a chance to win enough games to be the 1 seed, right? Kansas City and not San Diego, I guess, LA, the Chargers, they're going to beat the hell out of each other. Who knows if either of them are going to be able to get a 1 seed, right? Even the worst team in that division, Vegas, is still probably a second-place team in the AFC South to the Jaguars, probably, right? So the Jags in that division could win enough games to be a 1 seed. If, again, they get the Niners early, they play the Niners. If they can get the Chiefs late, we know the Chiefs early on, terror. But late in the year, Houston took them to overtime last year, right? Like, later in the year, you can get a couple breaks. It's almost like they're hiding stuff for the playoffs, resting a couple guys, a little bit more cautious. They can get the Panthers early, again, while Bryce Young's still settling in. Now the Bucs are either early or late. I wouldn't want them in the middle of the year because I do think they'll catch a little bit of they're not devoid of talent. But if you get them early with either a young quarterback or whoever they're going to start a quarterback, still learning the system, that'd be good. Or either late when they've given up hope because they've only won 3 games, right? So if the schedule breaks right for a couple of these teams, you could look up and be like, oh my God, the Jags are the 1 seed. Or like, if it doesn't break right, you're like, oh my God, Pittsburgh won 5 games. Like, how does that happen, right? The schedule is very, very important. It'd be easy to just be like, oh, we get them at home, we get them on the road. Oh, perfect, win, loss, win, loss. It's not that simple. You have to look at, they start in Seattle and they're coming all the way to Carolina after a divisional primetime game the week before. Well, that's a really tough game. We know Seattle's a better team than Carolina. But if they have San Francisco on Monday Night Football, so they have 1 day less rest, and then they go back to Seattle, and then they got to fly to Carolina for like a 1 p.m. game. Not even if they play Carolina, but that's just an example. For a 1 p.m. game, that's Carolina's football game, right? So the schedule can break a ton of different ways. I'm very excited for it. Don't overlook it. The NFL is meticulous with it. It is very, very crucial in terms of guessing wins, losses, and what teams are going to be for the season. Yeah,
timing is super important, and this is a huge timing league. You see it with trades, you see it with moves, and games, right? It's a big factor, and I think one of the best teams to look at as an example of that is Pittsburgh. You look 2 years ago, the Steelers start the season beating the Bills, okay? If the Steelers play the Bills at the end of the year there, what happens? Let me tell you, the Bills trounce Pittsburgh. Right. How about the double doink or the doink this season, or this past season in Cincinnati? Yeah. The Steelers week 1 go in and beat Burrow and the Bengals. What does that game look like later in the year, or if we see them in the playoffs? Not very good. Not very good for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, right.
So you see that a lot, and it really just comes down to how that schedule plays out. And like you said, the executives at the NFL are so smart. They really know how to make the most captivating, interesting product for television, and they do it really, really well every year. I don't expect anything less this season, but nevertheless, schedule release today is going to be great.
Couldn't agree more. Let's get into hits and misses. All right, hit number 1 here. We said when the Giants overpaid Daniel Jones, I said everybody else in that roster now has a ton of leverage. Like, watch out, here comes the avalanche of everybody else wanting to get paid. Because it's like, if you're going to give Daniel Jones that, And it was very, very clear that we all as a team, right, like if we're on the team, right, we all elevated him to be able to get to the playoffs and win a playoff game. Without us, he's nothing, this team is nothing. They have all the leverage, right? And what do you know? You look up, Dexter Lawrence is getting the bag. And I like Dexter Lawrence. He's a really nice defensive lineman. But it's 4 years, $90 million. He's getting paid as a top 3 defensive lineman. He's closer to like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Certainly very good. I'd pay him a good amount of money. A little bit more than I'd like. And if you start paying, you're like, oh, well, it's a little bit of an overpay. If you a little bit overpay here and then a little bit there when their left tackle needs paid. And
it adds
Saquon
up.
Gets a little bit more there. It's like, team could get really thin really quick. We called it when you overpay Daniel Jones. This is what happens when you give great money to average quarterbacks. We said this with Dak as well. We said it with Kyler. Like, look out.
Yeah.
It could get ugly.
It adds up. Those little overpays, they all stack up. And then when you want to go make that signing, when you want to go get that free agent to surround Daniel, you can't. You can't. And I think we were talking about this earlier in the week. Who was going after Daniel Jones? What team in the NFL, when he was
get that.
Like up for being signed, was like, you know what, we need to sell out for Daniel Jones. That guy is top of the league. We need to pay him whatever we can to get him on the... You don't have that discussion about guys like Daniel Jones.
No, the Giants had all the leverage and they still lost. Like, how does that happen? All right, miss number 1 here. I thought the Warriors were a championship team. I love Steph Curry. I like Clay. I think the team that usually shoots better wins. It's a shooter's league. That's usually how it goes. You put the ball in the basket more, you win games. They have no answer for Anthony Davis' size, though, whatsoever. None. The Lakers are long, athletic, can rebound, play really good defense. So, tough matchup for the Warriors. Not looking good for my pick. It's okay. I'm not necessarily known as a basketball guy anyway, so I'm not going to put too much on it, but still hurts nonetheless.
No, yeah. I've caught more games of that series this year than I really have ever.
Yeah.
And it's kind of apparent, especially at the end of that game on Monday night.
Yeah.
It was Monday.
Yeah,
the Lakers kind of took control there, and then they were up 3 with like 15 seconds, and
AD locks down Steph.
Yeah, and there were just a couple missed shots, and when Steph misses a 3 in the last couple seconds of the game,
tough.
You know it's not going their way.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, hit number 2 here. Remember when the Buccos were on fire and everyone was like, oh my God, they're going to win the World Series. And I said, like, shut your mouth. Like, take a deep breath. Young teams drift off as the season goes on, right? They regress back to the mean. What do you know? They lose 7 straight, right? They get swept by the Rays. They get swept by the Blue Jays. Mitch Keller put on a hell of a performance. What was that, Monday? So, look, they're going to beat bad teams, right? That's step number 1, right? If you're talking rebuild and getting back to like a playoff level team, step 1 is, can we beat the bad teams like we should, right? Can we go to Colorado and set a record for the most runs in a series? Yeah, because you should. Colorado sucks.
Yeah.
Like, when they come here, should Mitch Keller go at least 7 strong? Yes, he gives you a complete game, right? We're doing what we should against bad teams. We're not at the level yet where we can beat a good team, right? We were competitive against the Rays, which was good to see.
Yeah.
But we're not on that level yet. Just take a deep breath. Everybody, they're winning everything. Now, they are still in first place, which blows my mind. But, definitely regressing back to the mean a little bit.
Yeah, and this is something that I've been saying when everybody jumped on the Pirates are going to the World Series and they're going to play the Rays and it's going to be a battle.
Yeah. Oh, World Series preview. I was like, get out of here.
Yeah, it's a little much of a stretch, especially at this point in the season. We talked about it last week. It's a long year. We've been through a little over a month of baseball.
Yeah.
So you still have to go through all the dog days of summer. You still have to go, battle all the way to October. And by that time, who knows what the division looks like? Who knows what the playoff race looks like?
You don't even know what your roster could look like by then.
Yeah, I mean, we already lost O'Neal Cruz. So when he comes back in 4 or 5 months?
Sure.
Who knows what it will look like by then? Who knows who else will be out and what our pitching staff will look like? Sure, our bullpen was good to start, but that doesn't mean it's going to be good all the way to October.
Absolutely. Miss number 2 here. I didn't see the hype around the Ravens and like the pieces they added on the outside, right? Like, I think OBJ's fine, but he's more of a 2 or a 3 on a championship team. He's coming off an injury. They give him a lot of money.
Yeah.
Rashad Bateman's always been a little bit slight, like a little bit of a slighter build. He's been hurt a bunch. He comes back. Zay Jones was hurt in college. Are we sure he's going to not get hurt in the pros? But everyone's high on them. Maybe we miss. I don't know. This is like a kind of a maybe miss here, right? Like, I need to see it, but I don't get all the hype. Everybody else is having him as like a top 10 weapons room in the league. I don't see it, but maybe I'm crazy.
Well, I think they have the potential, but it's just if everybody can stay healthy, which is super against what the Ravens have been recently.
Yeah, absolutely not.
And yeah, Zay Flowers is definitely a concern. Is it just me, or do they sign every undersized person that they possibly can? Like, they don't have a big frame, stay healthy.
Yeah, they don't have a dude that goes up 50-50 jump ball down the field.
They don't have it.
No.
And I think that's something that you need, especially in the AFC North. I think that's something that's super important.
Yeah, I mean, they have the tight end, which is good. Mark Andrews, he's a really nice player. But yeah, no, I agree. They don't have a big possession guy, like a Mike Williams for Justin Herbert in LA. They're big possession guy, 3rd and 10. Nobody's open, play breaks down, throw it up to Mike Williams. He's going to come down with it 50% of the time or more, right? Like that, You need one of those guys.
And especially, like, Mark Andrews, great tight end. But he's not exactly a lock either. I mean, we know that game that they lost to the Steelers, what was it, a year or two ago?
Yeah, on that 4th down on the goal line,
He was open. He was wide open. You got to catch that ball.
Lamar kind of missed it, but also you probably should catch that.
You got to catch that ball if you're going to be the big safety valve tight end. You have to.
Yeah, I agree.
Travis Kelce, George Kittle, you go down the list. A lot of other tight ends in the league would have caught that ball.
I could not agree more. Hit number 3 here. I've said for years, since he was in LA, Jared Goff is not the problem, especially in Detroit. Jared Goff is not the problem. Actually, in Detroit, he's been the solution to a lot of their problems. It's not the offense I worry about. They've been a top 10 to 12 offense almost the entire time he's been there. 2 years now? The defense can't stop a nosebleed. It's
the secondary for sure.
It's bad. And now they're in conversation with making Jared Goff a slightly more long-term deal, right? Nothing crazy like, 6-7 years, but, 3-4 year deal. I'm here for it. I think he's a top 10 quarterback, especially with the line that they have. Mm-hmm. I think if they can protect Jared Goff, keep him upright, which they can, he could be a top 10 to 12 quarterback. And I think in the NFC, that could be enough, right? Who knows with Stafford coming off an injury? You could look up in a year and a half and Stafford be out of the league or a really, really not good quarterback. You could look up in a year and be like, Jared Goff's the 2nd best quarterback in the NFC. There's already an argument for it.
Yeah.
I think right now, for me, with Kyler being out, Stafford, I'm not sure with the injury, we'll exclude him. It's Hurts. And then, to me, is it Dak and Jared Goff? Or 2 and 3, you could argue each one.
And then Kirk Cousins maybe
and then
somewhere
Kirk
in there.
Maybe at 4, Derek Carr 5.
We've talked about it. The NFC is not loaded when it comes to
Jared
quarterbacks.
Goff's a top 3 at bare minimum, at worst, a top 3 NFC quarterback.
Yeah.
That's plenty good enough.
Yeah, and if he can stay away from sending risky texts to Dan Campbell's wife this time, it'll be in business.
Interesting. Missed number 3 here. I've said that the NFL, or I'm sorry, not the NFL, the MLB umpires, they're not great, but it's a really tough job. I've always kind of given them the benefit of the doubt, right? The zone, you're talking inches here and there, the ball's spinning, the ball's moving, it's dropping, I get it. It's a really tough job. So I've always given them the benefit of the doubt. But this season has been next level abysmal. It's been downright embarrassing. Not only the calls, but to me it's the awful ejections and the interactions between coaches, players, and umpires.
Yeah.
It's been terrible. Shelton is talking to a different umpire and another umpire throws him out. Utterly ridiculous. That series in Tampa Bay, I'm not saying that's the reason they lost, but that was an embarrassment for the league. That is one where if you're in the league office, you got to sit down, you got to watch the tape because that entire series was an utter embarrassment for the Major League Baseball. It was terrible. It's embarrassing. They should look into it. I don't know what else to say. I'm not saying that the Pirates win a game or even any of the games with better umpiring, but it's embarrassing. They weren't even given a shot in a couple of games.
Well, there has to be some level of consistency, right? Especially when it comes to ejections, when it comes to anything like that, there has to be consistency. There has to be that threshold that you have to hit to get ejected, because mass ejections are just, it really just makes the game something that it isn't, and it takes a lot of momentum away from teams. And when it comes to the strike zone, there has to be consistency. I don't care if you're going to give them an inch or two. You can give them an inch or two, but keep it consistent.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. It's just something needs to be done. You're right. The consistency is something that needs to get better, point blank.
Yeah. Guys, that's it for the first segment. On the other side of the break, we will have our draft grades for NFL teams, and then we will have the news to round out the second segment, and it's going to be a good one, so don't go anywhere. All
right, we are back. Second segment, the issue. The 11th of May now. Weather's starting to finally break, getting warm. Shorts are a staple in the wardrobe now. Sweatpants are going a little bit by the wayside. It feels good. Thanks for stopping and making us part of your day. No matter where you're listening, watching, whatever, we got YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Prime Video. We got Apple Podcasts. We got Amazon Music. We got Pocket Podcasts. I mean, yeah,
Google
everything.
Podcasts,
Everything.
iTunes.
You can find us pretty much anywhere. The Issue Sports, we got a sweet little logo on there. Go check it out. But anyway, we appreciate you stopping and listening. This segment, we're going to have the AFC offseason grades. We're going to split it AFC, NFC. AFC this week, NFC next week.
I feel like it's only right.
Yeah, we'll start with the AFC because it's better, and Pittsburgh's in it, so hometown team, and it's the much better conference. And then we'll kind of, dump on some teams in the NFC because I do think it's interesting, and we'll talk about this next week too after we do the NFC, and we'll kind of compare the disparity between the two and the grades. I think I'm going through here, and I'm like, there's not a ton of C's. There's no D's in the AFC. I'm looking off the top of my head, right, thinking NFC, like we did a couple already. There's going to be some C's, low-end C's, maybe even a D. So it's like the disparity, and you see it with the talent level as well, right? It's very clear that the AFC is much better quarterbacks, better weapons, right? I think we did the quarterbacks, and we did the top 10 AFC. It looks like the top 10 in the league, period. So it's like it makes a ton of sense that the grades would reflect that because I think the GMs are better, the front offices are better, and it's relaying to better talent. So nonetheless, we'll have sports news after that. So without further ado,
let's get right into the draft grades for the 2023 NFL draft.
And off-season as well.
In the off-season in the AFC. Let's go.
Let's go and start with the AFC North and with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm going to give them an A-. Now, I do think they addressed every major need now. So they needed another defensive lineman. They go get Keanu Benton in, I think, the third round. Right? They obviously needed an offensive lineman, Broderick Jones. We get him in the first round. I think he's going to start day one. I don't think he's got the ceiling of like the Paris Johnson tackle from Ohio State. Like, I don't think he's got that ceiling, but I think you could look up at in 10 years and be like, damn, he was a really good B+ A- starter for the last 10 years, right? And that's the kind of guy Pittsburgh needs. I like the Joey Porter pick. Again, I don't think he's going to be a stud, but we got nobody at DB, so I think he's going to be very, very productive. I think he's going to be a lot closer to like a Trayvon Diggs, big play, but also maybe a big miss on some of the plays, getting burned deep. We needed a rotational edge rusher. I like the Herbig pick. So all in all, I think Pittsburgh had a really nice draft. Offseason acquisitions as well. You go get Isaac Samalo, I want to say his name is. I probably butchered it, but the guard from Philly, very good guard, veteran guy, going to come in, start immediately. So I think Pittsburgh gets an A- here.
I think so too. And the Joey Porter pick, I think he has a lot of room to grow into that role too.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
think the first season to 2 seasons might be a little bumpy, but I think after you get through that, I think the size, the length, he's still like learning how long he is and learning how to use that size and learning how to use his body. So I think he's somebody that can really grow into a good role there.
Couldn't agree more. Baltimore, I'll give a B. So I think, first of all, you need a quarterback in this league. We know that. You were able to get a quarterback. Do I think you overpaid a little bit? Yeah, but I mean, sometimes you got to overpay for good things. And I think without him, you're not a competitive team in the AFC. So I get it.
And let's be real, Lamar's special.
Yeah, for sure. Lamar's a top 10 quarterback. Absolutely.
Then they go and add good weapons. They're good. They're really good weapons.
Have the potential to be great, but also have the potential to be bad. So we'll put them at good for now.
Right. There are just those looming concerns with them.
I think that's why they're not higher in the grade. But I think a B is a very solid offseason. You got better. And let's see how it translates to the field. Cincinnati will go A-. Look, I didn't mind their draft at all. I thought it was a really, really productive draft. They get starters. They get the edge rusher. They go get another receiver. I like their draft a ton. Now, they might have to move off T. Higgins. We'll see. Joe Mixon in the offseason has been a little bit bumpy. That's why they're not a little bit higher. But they go get an offensive lineman. They go get a wide receiver. They go get some defense, right? Like, they're supporting Joe Burrow, and that's obviously what you have to do. They exercise the 5th option on him. They re-signed a bunch of good, rotational pieces, right? Good, like a good veteran linebacker. They got like a good veteran safety. Now they lose Jesse Bates, but they go get a good productive safety. So it's just little moves like that. A- for Cincinnati.
They're being very calculated.
And they haven't been. It's been Cincinnati.
Right, and it's kind of a newer thing that we're seeing there, and I think Zach Taylor has a lot to do with that. He's been great there.
Yeah, I agree. Cleveland, we can kind of speed by. If you go watch the video where we talked about, winners and losers of the draft, Cleveland was a loser. We'll give them a C here. I didn't love their draft. I didn't think they did a ton of things outside of the draft as well. They didn't have a ton of picks either because they gave a bunch up for Deshaun.
Well, then they drafted a backup. Like they drafted somebody that is going to be a backup quarterback.
Yeah, so not a huge win, not a terrible loss, I guess. We'll give them a C. So we move on to the AFC South. I think the Jags get a B+. So first of all, they get Calvin Ridley back. Now that was last offseason, but he couldn't play. So we'll give it this offseason, the grade.
It'll roll over.
Again, supporting Trevor Lawrence. They go get a tackle to protect him. They get weapons for him on the outside.
Yeah.
Evan Ingram they re-sign, right? So they're making sure that Trevor Lawrence has everything he needs to succeed. Because if you don't have a quarterback in this league, you have nothing. You have to make that work.
And they have a quarterback, and once you find your quarterback, you have to do everything to make them comfortable. Everything you can.
And I think they're doing a pretty good job of it.
I think so.
Colts, I'm going to give a B-. I thought Levis was a better prospect than Anthony Richardson. So they're going to go get Richardson. They didn't acquire a ton of talent on the outside. They don't have a lot of guys to throw to. But also, they did get some nice core pieces. So a B- for the Colts feels right.
I 100% agree with that.
I like the coaching hire as well, so that's good. Houston, I'm going to go give an A-. I think they got 2 of the top 5 players in the draft. Now, yeah, I know they gave up a little bit to do it. I'm fine with that, though. If you can go get your edge rusher for the next 6 years, and even if C.J. Stroud's not a home run forever, if he can come in and complete 64% of his throws, I don't know, 18 touchdowns, 9 picks as a rookie, they're going to be a much, much better team. This is a sneaky team where they could double their win total. Now, that's not a lot. It's 3 wins. So they could could they go win 6 games? Yes, it's a step in the right direction. I love the DeMeco Ryans hire. Even though he's defensive, I think he brings an aura similar to like a Mike Tomlin where he could turn it around, big culture guy. So I'll give Houston an A- here.
Yeah, I like that. And it's something in the right direction. I mean, they've just been plummeting now for, 2-3 seasons? So,
pretty much, yeah.
So finally finding a semblance of a step in the right direction is good.
Yeah, I agree. Titans, I'll give a C+. I think Skoronski's a decent pick. I think he's going to project more as a guard, though, than anything. So how highly do we value guards? I mean, they needed an offensive lineman, period, so I guess that's good. But again, how highly do we value guards in the NFL? Not very highly. And I think the Will Levis pick's okay, but trying to convince yourself that Ryan Tannehill is still going to be your quarterback is a little bit ridiculous. I would have tried to wheel and deal him and move him.
Yeah.
I don't know what you could have got, maybe a third. But at this point, your roster needs talent, and I think a third would have been decent. Also, I'm torn on do they deal Henry? Do they keep Henry? I think he's aging, so I think you could maybe move off him while the stock is still a little bit up and go get some draft capital and invest on the outside. They might have the weakest receiving room in the league. And in a perimeter league, that's not good. Defense is still bad, so for me, it's a C+.
And Derrick Henry had a very quietly one of the worst years of his career this last year.
Which is still saying something that it wasn't even that bad of a season either.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad, but I mean, he is on an apparent downgrade now. He's just sliding.
He's on the downward
slope, further and further down every single year. He's out of his prime, and you have to be able to realize it and not have that sentimental value with every single player on the team. Belichick and the Patriots have been a great example of this. It doesn't matter who it is. As soon as they start sloping down, deal and go get somebody while you can still get value for that person.
Yeah.
If you hold on to Derrick Henry too long, my fear is that you're going to lose all value in him, and you're not going to be able to get anything.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's move on to the AFC East here. Let's go with Buffalo. I'm going to give them a B. I like the Kincaid pick, but on the outside, they're still a little bit limited outside of Stephon Diggs. I don't trust Gabe Davis as a reliable 2. I think he's more of a 3 on a championship team, which that's the aspiration for Buffalo.
Yeah.
I like the Osiris Torrance pick as a guard. I had a first-round grade on him. He slips to the 2nd for Buffalo, so that's a nice pick up there. But another underrated thing, Leslie Frazier, their DC, is taking the year off. I don't know what. Probably maybe something personal, or maybe they decided we're going to try somebody else. I don't know. It said on their website that he's taking a break. Whatever. Not my problem. But that's a problem, right? He's a really, really good high-end defensive coordinator, and it's a really high-end defense. So do they maybe take a step back? Who knows? Josh Allen was regressing last year, so we'll give him a B for now.
And with Brian Daboll not being there, we could see how the pieces were kind of missing this last season.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially on those important downs, on third downs. And then even when they would try to construct something that was kind of supposed to be really intelligent and intricate, it kind of fell apart. Because when you don't have a great mind like that in the building anymore, you can see things start to fall apart. So unless they can kind of find something to put that back together, it could get a little bit ugly there.
Okay, let's go Patriots C+. I love the Bill O'Brien move. I like the Christian Gonzalez pick. Outside of that, they drafted like a kicker, a punter, a couple gadget guys who literally under their position is listed wide receiver / punt returner. If you're listed as a slash, you should not be drafted. I'm just saying, unless you're like a Desmond Howard, Devin Hester type player, which I don't think either of them are, considering they were like 6th and 7th round picks. So again, a little bit of a puzzling draft. A lot of centers and kickers, punters, right? So did they address some needs? Yes. Did they get decent players? Yes. But did they get better at the glaring weakness, which is they have no offensive speed? No, they did not. For that, it's a C+.
And well, you can't forget that because Bill Belichick has so much power in the drafting process and he has his hand in everything there, you never really see a good draft from the Patriots.
Not as of late, no. Not in the last 6-7 years.
I was going to say half a decade?
Close, yeah. Jets, we're going to go A- based solely on the fact that you needed a quarterback, you got an MVP Hall of Fame level quarterback. Is he on the downward slope of his career?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course he is.
Could he still be really productive? Is he still really talented? Absolutely. I think he's going to...
For sure.
And now it might take some time with the young receivers, but we know Aaron always comes out with a vengeance when stuff like this happens, right? They draft Jordan Love, wins MVP, right? So like, kind of feels a little bit dissed by the fan base, moves to a new place, has to prove himself. Could we see an angry, highly motivated Aaron? I think we do. I think he's got a good season. A- for that.
And my question is, how long does that last?
Maybe a year or two, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I think it gets them into playoff contention, which is they win 7 games with negative contribution from their quarterbacks last year.
Right. So you're gonna see an improvement this year, and that's not a shock to anybody.
Yeah, and I do like the Alan Lazard pickup too. I think he's a really good 2 or a 3. Closer to 3. All right, Dolphins, I'll give a B. I like the Jalen Ramsey pickup. But again, drafting a bunch of running backs, the running back room is like 6 running backs deep at this point.
And that's not what they need. That's not their identity.
They need offensive linemen, and they need linebackers, and they didn't get either of them. So the Dolphins, a B. Like, I like the swing with, I like the addition of Vic Fangio, the DC, and I love Jalen Ramsey as the pickup. Those two combined are going to make that defense a lot better. But again, on offense, I think you needed some more core pieces, like in the middle of your offensive line. Along with maybe some linebackers on defense, but they didn't get that, so we'll give them a B.
And a big part of grading your draft is how well you stick to your identity and what you do well. We didn't see much of that.
Yeah, I agree. AFC West here. I think this might be the strongest offseason division-wise. So the Chiefs, I'll give a B, which is actually the lowest of it, but it's not a bad B. They just didn't do anything flashy, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't mind the first-round pick. I thought there were better players available. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I'm going to butcher it. He's a defensive lineman. I don't hate the pick itself. I like the Rashee Rice pick, the wide receiver from SMU, as the second rounder. That's a really nice pick. They're going to have a lot of speed. Him, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Travis Kelce, right? They have a lot of speed on offense. But again, they didn't do anything super flashy, so for that, we'll give them a B. Chargers, I think A. I think this is the highest grade we have here in the AFC, a flat A, not an A-. The Kellen Moore pickup is massive.
Yeah.
They haven't had an offensive identity, right? It's kind of been like, first half will be okay, and then the wheels are going to fall off because we don't really know what we are in the second half as we get into the nitty-gritty. Can we run the football? Can we maintain clock? Can we put Justin Herbert in some better positions late in the game? They haven't been able to. That's been their problem. They lost by what? After they were up like 30 in the playoff game. I think with Kellen Moore, that gets a lot better. I like Quentin Johnston, the pickup, the wide receiver. Good possession receiver for Herbert to throw to, along with Mike Williams. So Chargers for me is an A.
I agree. And you see Brandon Staley start to take a lot of uncalculated risks, especially late in the games. And I think with Kellen Moore, you kind of avoid at least some of those. Is he going to go out and take a swing and a risk every now and then? Absolutely. That's what great coaches do. But it has to be calculated. It has to be thought through. And I think he brings that side to it that they haven't had.
And one little stat here that'll show you that is that the Cowboys were, I think, either number 1 or they were top, like they were close to the top of the league in red zone efficiency last year. They had like Cooper Rush starting a couple games, Dak, bunch of injuries. They had basically a rebuild on the offensive line.
Yeah.
Receiving core outside of CeeDee Lamb was pretty weak, and they were really good in the red zone. So that shows that they're calculated, very detail oriented, and that's what he's bringing to the table, which I think is going to help tremendously. Broncos, B+. Sean Payton's a fantastic pickup. Outside of that, they didn't do anything that I really liked, but Sean Payton is a good enough pickup to make them a B+. He's a top 5 head coach in the league. He's a Hall of Fame level coach.
Getting rid of Nathaniel Hackett was the best thing they did all offseason long.
Absolutely. Raiders, I'll give a B+. I think it's a slight downgrade at quarterback. I like Derek Carr a little bit better than Jimmy G, but Jimmy G in big games has been very, very good. Does not lose a ton in his career when he's healthy, so that's a plus.
It's just how long can he stay healthy?
Yeah, how long can he stay healthy? But other than that, they made a couple decent moves. Nothing too flashy, but a lot of solid moves. got a burner. I like a Tyree Wilson pick on the outside, on the edge there for them. So decent draft. I'll go B+ there.
I like it.
There it is.
Yeah, so go check out the Instagram, guys. All the list graphics will be posted there. So go check out those draft grades and make sure you throw a like, throw a subscribe, anything to make sure that you can see the next video that comes out the following week, because we will be doing the NFC. But for now, we have a lot of stories to get to in the sports world. Let's get into some news.
All right, story number 1 here. The Chicago Blackhawks won, in a sense. I guess
Yeah, they
kind of
won.
I mean, they won. Did they really? I mean, look. So they had they were one of the worst teams in hockey this year. So they win the NFL draft lottery. Not necessarily what you want to win, but it's a good thing, especially this year, because you're basically. I mean, if they don't take Connor Bedard, they should just sell the team.
Yes. 100%.
For those who don't know, Connor Bedard is easily the best prospect since like a McDavid, Sidney Crosby level player. He might even be a better prospect than them. Who knows if it pans out? But he is an all-worldly talent.
Coming out of the same area of Canada that Sidney Crosby came from, too. Yeah.
Did McDavid come out of there, too?
McDavid was close by, but not in the same
Okay, Bedard is a lot closer to where
Very
Sidney's
close,
from.
yeah.
Either way, he is that level prospect. Really, really talented. And here's one of the things, like for example, Anthony Richardson, right? Massive upside, right? High ceiling. So you could consider him a pretty talented prospect, but the production was like, eh. Bedard has the ceiling, he is a top prospect, and the production matches it. So you're like, okay, so he's got the talent, we see the ceiling, we see his room for growth, but he's also like averaging over a goal a game. You're like,
there's really no
nuts.
downside to it.
It's nuts. Yeah.
There's no downside to it. You have to take him. I don't see how you wouldn't. Now, the problem is he's not going to have any talent, anything around him on that team. So could he kind of be, out
chandelier in a warehouse?
Yes, in a very, very, very empty, rundown, rusting warehouse.
Could be.
I mean, dude, the Blackhawks haven't won a playoff series, okay, since they won the Stanley Cup in 2015. They have not won a playoff series in 8 years.
Wow. So, I mean, it's a full rebuild, clearly.
Yes, and you have to start with him. It's almost like you have to go get the star quarterback. You have to go get that star and then build around him. Mm-hmm. But it's going to take some time. Like, because they get this big number 1 pick and they get that guy, it doesn't guarantee anything.
Unless he comes into the league and is prime Sidney Crosby, prime Connor McDavid, year 1, then I could see him maybe getting them close to playoff contention. But if he's anything less, which that's a lot of expectations, if he's anything less, then they're just not going to be.
And we can't forget, hockey's not a sport, though, where you get one guy and that totally changes the franchise.
Well, he's only on the ice for like a fourth of the game.
Yeah. So it's not like in football where you go get the quarterback and then everything else kind of falls into place sometimes, like it did with a Joe Burrow.
Right.
And it's not like basketball where you can go get one star and then you're good.
That's the thing about football is like the star touches the ball almost every play. Like your star quarterback, when you're on offense, touches the ball every play. And when he doesn't, the other team's star, or at least their quarterback, touches the ball. Yeah. Right? Like NBA, the star is always on the floor. There's no helmet. There's no nothing, like very star-driven. Then you flip over to like baseball and hockey where it's like your star gets 4 at-bats. You might have a put-out or 2. Yeah. And that's it.
And then in hockey, you get about like 15, 20 minutes out of him every game.
Yeah, you'll get about 40 seconds, and then he's off.
Yeah.
And then 3 minutes later, another 40 seconds, then he's off. So it's like you don't get a ton of stars, so we'll see. Story number 2 here, on to baseball. Aaron Judge off the IL. Had a little bit of a hip thing. It was only like a 10-day IL, so not too bad. Good for my fantasy team. No, we still suck. We still suck so bad. I mean, everybody's hurt, but whatever. We'll second half of the season, a lot of time left. A lot of time,
dude.
But for actual, purposes, like the Yankees I think are still in last place. I don't know. Let's double check.
I'm pretty sure they are. Either way, it's good to get your star back in that sense. You need somebody, especially with the way that they play the game and the style. They're a very slug-heavy team.
Yeah.
Home runs, very dependent on them. And you get your home run hitter back.
Yeah, they are 19 and 17, so slightly above 500, but still in last place. That's a loaded division. We got the Rays at top at 29-7. Wow, that's insane. 29-7.
That is crazy.
Orioles shocking the world at 22 and 13. Blue Jays 21 and 14. Red Sox 21 and 15. And then the Yankees in the basement, 10 games back of first.
So is this the worst start to a season the Yankees have had? It's got to be up there.
Standing wise, probably. This is probably the farthest they've gotten into the season. Still in last place. But the record's not awful. Like, that's the thing that's, like, so frustrating about being in that division, where it's like, the record's not, they're 2 games below 500. Like, for example, the AL Central, the team the Twins are in first at 19-16. They'd be a half game back of first in that division.
Yeah.
You know, like, even in the AL West, they would be in third. So it's like,
The AL East is a monster, man.
yeah, it's tough. But still, nonetheless, they will definitely look forward to getting him back. Story number 3 here. Houston owner and the owner's wife are both denying that they forced the organization into drafting C.J. Stroud. Couple things here. 1, they own the team. So, like, if people are going to complain that he made them draft a quarterback, well, it's like, well, then maybe you should buy an NFL team so you can run it how you see fit.
Yeah, do you have a couple billion laying
But
around?
you, like, own it. So it's like, do you, like, make decisions about your house? Well, yeah, because you own the property, so you can, like, decide, you know what, we're going to pave the driveway, or, like, we're going to put in a new front door. It's like, yeah, because you own it, right? That's kind of how it goes. The owner should and rightfully has a say. If he wants to draft C.J. Stroud, well, then, like that's kind of how it goes.
Process,
yeah. And also, like, they need a quarterback. Like, it's been mayhem since Deshaun left. So it's like, even if he did force them to, which, again, not a problem with that, and even if you did have a problem with that, it's like, well, they need a quarterback anyway. So, like, what? I don't understand the problem here at all.
I mean, I guess just, like, a little bit of, like, overreach and displaying too much of, like, the ownership power. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, they're not scouts and they're not analysts.
Yeah.
They leave that up to the people that do the scouting and do the analyzing. But I understand the argument from your point, where it's like, yeah, you own the team, you can do what you want, and you can also give your input and at least push a direction.
Yeah.
But I don't think that a guy and his wife should be deciding the outcomes when you have GMs, you have coaches, you have all of that in place. But let's not act like Houston's a well-run team in any sense. Like,
although I didn't hate their offseason, though. So, and here's another thing, though, is like, it's not like he was like, hey, I'm forcing you guys to draft Max Duggan in the first round. Like, C.J. Stroud is a bona fide first-round prospect that a lot of people could see going number 1. It's not like you were like, he was like, I'm forcing us to take, like, an absolute project. Like Anthony Richardson. Like, you're taking a guy that's very NFL-ready, pretty polished, accurate quarterback, played in the Big Ten. Like, there's not a whole lot of problems here.
Right.
Story number 4 here. Colorado football, 6th highest bet on team to reach the college football playoff. That's interesting. They've had a bunch of people transfer out. Obviously, a bunch of people transferring in with Dion there now.
Yeah.
Here would be my take. Is like, I think it's a little bit early, right? For example, Lincoln Riley goes to USC. Productive, but not quite a playoff team yet. Solved the offensive side of the ball. This little offseason here, he solved the defensive side. They are now ready to contend, right? It usually takes about 2 years. Like, 1 year, you're going to start to rebuild a side of the ball, usually the side that you're good on. So Dion, probably defense. Solve that side of the ball. The other side will get a little bit better, and then you solve that side, then you're ready to compete the second year.
Yeah.
For me, it feels like Colorado, they're going to be better defensively. His son, Shador Sanders, the quarterback, he's going to be an upgrade, so they're going to be a little bit more dynamic on offense, but not quite ready to compete with Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson. I don't know if they'll ever be, because that's a smaller school, but nonetheless, I think it's 1 year too early. What do you think?
I agree. I think it's going to take longer than just a season. You get a new coach, flip it, and you're competing for a national championship right off the bat. But I think, if anything, this speaks to how effective the Dion impact and how effective the NIL has been in college football and just in college sports in general, right? If you take it back 3, 4, 5 years, you would never be talking about Colorado football competing for a national championship, no matter who the coach was that got hired. Now that the fact that they can throw money at guys and kind of bring in the culture that they want, go get players that they were never able to get in the past, I think it changes a lot. And I think this is really, these next couple of years, they're going to be the formative years where you start seeing the NIL really shape the college football landscape, because we've seen it already form basketball.
Yeah.
In basketball, you got the smaller rosters. You only have to put 5 guys out there. That's going to change a little quicker.
Absolutely.
But with football, now we're going to start to see some of those aftershocks of the NIL being in place. And it's going to change the landscape a little bit. And I was actually talking about this the other day with somebody. I don't know if Saban can keep the foothold anymore, because you're already seeing
interesting.
Georgia start to gear up a little bit. They're
Yeah.
going out spending more money on players.
You're right.
And they're starting to lose that foothold in the SEC that they've always kept, because Saban was able to get the players, because Saban is Saban and Alabama is Alabama. And if you're the best, you go to Alabama and you play for Saban, and then you get drafted, right?
Couldn't
And now
say it
you're
better
gonna
myself.
you're gonna see a little bit of a shake-up, and I honestly think it's gonna be good for the sport. You bring more fan bases in, you get the expanded playoffs, so now you're gonna get what is that, 2025 that's kicking in? So we got 2 more years till that kicks in. I think it's gonna be good.
I agree.
I think it's gonna be really good for the sport.
What a great riff there to end it. Nice job.
Hey, appreciate that.
Anytime.
But guys, that is all we have for the show today. So make sure you're going to the social media. You can find all the links in the description of the episode wherever you're watching, no matter the platform, and no matter how you got here. We appreciate it. Make sure you like, subscribe, and come back next week. We're going to have another loaded show next Thursday. And that was The Issue.